Hi, I'm Joe Gioco, and let me start out by saying that Bobby was so impressed with my cooking that he asked me to read from his book the chapter called The Flatbush Diet, and I'm the very first guy to attend it. So, without further ado, from Bobby in Naziland by Bob Rosen, Chapter 15, The Flatbush Diet. You could have asked any Jew in Flatbush and they'd have told you the same thing. Only ignorant Goyim, whom I didn't call Goyim, used any mayonnaise other than Hellman's and any ketchup other than Heinz. I knew this was true because every time I ate lunch with the Coogans, Mary Coogan, after digging a dirty plate out of the sink and washing it, would serve me a sandwich, most likely bologna on Wonder Bread, slathered with either Kraft mayonnaise or Hunt's ketchup. And these sandwiches were worse than terrible. But I ate them anyway because I was too polite to tell Mary that I didn't like the way they tasted, or to ask her why she was feeding me this goyim glop when she could buy the good stuff at the A&P around the corner like my mother did. My mother, who, with near religious fervor, had indoctrinated me to believe in Hellman's and Heinz and to hold all other brands of mayonnaise and ketchup in contempt, especially Kraft and Hunt's. She also taught me to believe in Campbell's soup, stocking one entire shelf in our pantry with every flavor in creation. Chicken rice, chicken noodle, cream of chicken, cream of mushroom, cream of turkey, turkey noodle, turkey rice, turkey vegetable, tomato, tomato rice, split peas, plain vegetable, on and on and on. Campbell's was the soup she served for lunch, unless she made from scratch, using a recipe handed down from her mother, a vat of chicken soup that she called Jewish penicillin, because she believed in its powers to cure a cold or the flu. She believed, too, that a regimen of Nabisco saltine crackers and Coke syrup, which came directly from the Coke machine in the candy store, was the best medicine for the frequent upset stomachs that laid me low when I couldn't face going to school. My mother also indoctrinated me to believe that kosher, which might as well have been a brand name, meat, especially chicken, was better than non-kosher meat. Cream of wheat was better than Mapo. H.O. was better than Quaker. Bosco was better than Fox's You Bet. Nestle's Quick was better than Ovaltine, which was just plain weird and Swiss. Skippy was better than Jif. Silver Cup was better than Wonder Bread. Carolina was better than Uncle Ben's. Good Humor was better than Bungalow Bar. Bazooka was better than Double Bubble. Smith Brothers was better than Vicks, which tasted like the medicine it was supposed to be. My tea fine puddings were better than Jell-O puddings, though Jell-O gelatin was better than Knox gelatin. And Log Cabin was better than Vermont made, though nothing was better than the pure maple syrup somebody once gave my father for Christmas, and which my mother treated as if it were liquid gold, allowing me to put it on my pancakes and French toast only by the teaspoonful, though she acted as if an eyedropper would have been a more appropriate serving implement. Certain other brands of food, she said, also existed on an elevated plane, without peer, like Aunt Jemima's pancake mix, Philadelphia cream cheese, Breakstone's whipped butter, Welch's grape jelly, and Nabisco Devil's Food Squares, which I'd gorge myself on while we waited on the checkout line at the A&P or Walbaum's. My mother, however, held no strong opinions about the sickeningly sweet breakfast cereals I asked for every morning, because insidious madmen had so thoroughly washed my brain in their brand name propaganda, that my dentist, Dr. Bernstein, should have given them a commission. These cereals included Cartoon Rabbit-endorsed sugar-coated balls called Trix, Cartoon Tiger-endorsed sugar frosted flakes, Cartoon Bee-endorsed Sugar Pops, Superstar Athlete-endorsed Wheaties, the breakfast of champions, which I'd spike with 3 heaping tablespoons of white sugar, and All-American Kid endorsed Kellogg's Corn Flakes, which, when there was no other way to get my morning fix, I'd spike with 4 heaping tablespoons of sugar, because that's how much it took to make those golden flakes of corn sweet enough. When it came to orange juice, my mother's frugality overpowered her taste buds. But no matter what she said, she couldn't convince me that the off-brand condensed OJ that she always bought at the A&P tasted just as good as Tropicana, which was the brand I'd believed in since I tasted it at my grandmother's house. Every time I opened the refrigerator, or Frigidaire as everybody called it, though it was actually a Kelvinator, the sight of a pitcher containing water floating on top of thick orange muck appalled me. It's disgusting, I'd declare, refusing to drink it, even after a vigorous stirring reconstituted it. Even more appalling was my mother's insistence that food in the refrigerator never spoiled, no matter how long it languished there. It killed her to throw out anything, even if it was covered in mold. I'll cut off the moldy part, she'd say, which is why I never ate or drank anything before sniffing it. And if I detected the slightest hint of disagreeable odor, especially with milk, I'd tell her that it had gone sour and demand she let me throw it out. It's not spoiled, she'd say. It's only the spout that smells bad. Put it back in the Frigidaire. I'll drink it. The milk would then sit in the refrigerator untouched until a blue-green fungus sprouted from the container, and only then would it vanish when nobody was looking. Meat, however, she never allowed to spoil because it was too expensive. And like everybody else except for Chiquita and her son Eugene Appleberg, the East 18th Street vegetarians, we ate lots of meat. Because Americans were supposed to eat meat, especially red meat. It made you stronger. Adhering religiously to this dietary dictum, my mother whipped up a meat dish as the main course for every dinner she made, bar none. Lamb chops, steak, roast beef, chicken, veal cutlets, duck, turkey, Cornish game hen, meatloaf, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, hot dogs, pork chops, pot roast, corned beef, cabbage stuffed with chopped meat, liver, and tongue. A word I took metaphorically until the day in the supermarket that I saw an entire raw tongue wrapped in cellophane and realized that it was a cow's tongue. And I refused to eat tongue again, no matter how good it might have tasted. But this revelation didn't stop me from eating most other parts of the cow's body, though not its liver, which looked more repulsive than its tongue and had a flavor I found grotesque, except for when it was served as chopped liver, with lots of Hellmann's mayonnaise. Say what you will about my mother. She knew how to cook, and she must be given full credit for her near supernatural ability to transform the most ordinary cut of meat or low-budget piece of fish into something delicious. She would doctor a jar of Manischewitz gefilte fish using the recipe handed down from her mother Helen, whose own culinary skills, as far as I knew, were unsurpassed when it came to preparing such Jewish delicacies as the 4 Ks, kugel, kreplach, kishka, and kasha, aka noodles, dumplings, sausages, and pasta. The very backbone of the Eastern European diet. The foods that sent family members into spasms of ecstasy whenever she served them. And her great, fluffy matzo balls, the size and consistency of cumulus clouds, were a world unto themselves and a humiliating rejoinder to my other grandmother, Ruth, whose flavorless matzo balls were the size of golf balls and had the consistency of spaldines, and whose cooking, my mother said, had driven my father to enlist in the army because he'd heard the food was better there. What Helen did with an entire kosher chicken or select parts of the bird the less frugal people discarded were magical. As the Indians did with the buffalo, she let nothing go to waste, going so far as to suck the marrow from the bones. We all suck the marrow from the bones, and working wonders with what we called the bird's pupik, or belly button, which my mother always grabbed before anybody else, proclaiming, "It's my favorite part." I'd watched Helen on many occasions transform a gelatinous mass of chicken livers acquired at the kosher butcher into sensual mounds of chopped liver, lacing it with gobs of yellow chicken fat rather than Hellman's, which she'd rendered herself and which I like to spread like butter on white bread. She always kept a jar of chicken fat in the refrigerator to make gribbinus, a Jewish version of pork rinds, chicken skin, deep fried in chicken fat, resulting in greasy pellets of pure cholesterol, which I ate like popcorn, and which a cardiologist would one day tell me had killed more Jews than Hitler. My mother, following her mother's instructions to the letter, plunked the store-bought gray lumps of pre-made gefilte fish into a bubbling concoction of spices and vegetables and stewed them for hours until out from the cauldron came the scrumptious fish blobs that my father and I devoured, his smothered with horseradish, mine plain. Sometimes on weekends, she'd whip up a batch of blueberry pancakes, or a cheese omelet, or cinnamon toast, or French toast, often made with challah, and occasionally with a serving of ambrosia-like bacon on the side. Though we routinely consumed other pig meats as well, notably pork chops and ham, we also observed Passover. And to make more bearable those 8 days of giving up virtually every food I like to eat, my mother made a mouth-watering matzah brai, latkes, as light as feathers, and a sponge cake that she then transformed into a strawberry shortcake so delectable it seemed to defeat the very purpose of the holiday, to remember the suffering and deprivations of the Jews who'd wandered in the desert for 40 years. Her piece de resistance, however, were her year-round specialties, some of which could be classified as gourmet: chicken cacciatore, veal and eggplant parmesan, shrimp scampi, spaghetti and meatballs, for which she simmered the meatballs in sauce all day as if she were Italian, ultra creamy spinach and potatoes. I'd eat anything with spinach because I like Popeye. Baked apples, which she drowned in heavy cream, and even crepe Suzette, which she said were pretty much the same as blintzes, except without the filling. And she set them on fire too, which was the most exciting thing I ever saw her do in the kitchen. And I was ecstatic when she baked her Depression-era chocolate cake, updating a recipe handed down from my father's mother. Not only did I think this cake was the most luscious food I'd ever tasted, but she let me mix the batter with her mix master, lick the remnants from the beaters and the bowl, and help her make the icing, usually chocolate or vanilla, which she then spread over the cake in an artistic landscape of points, peaks, and swirls that rivaled anything you'd find in the bakery where the Auschwitz lady